welcome to the Nipping for Jesus podcast. And already I screwed up. Okay, so I have my beautiful wife here with me. This is episode 98, guys. We are 2 away from 100. I am totally stoked. I can't believe the podcast has come this far. A lot of it is because of my lovely guests here supporting me and getting me off my butt to focus on this ministry. This podcast started literally with me, my Bible, my phone, and a free podcasting app back in 2012. Now look at us.
Sitting on your butt.
Huh?
I wouldn't say you were sitting on your butt.
I wasn't sitting on my butt, but I was doing. Sometimes I'm false humble. Okay, so what I mean is
you are false humble sometimes.
Yeah, huh?
You are false humble sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think I beat myself up sometimes. So I was doing ministry somewhere else, but now so this topic today is so important to you and I because we both had our periods of what's known as deconstruction. So to kick things off, I'm going to read 1 John chapter 2, verse 19, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
And we're going to go into your story.
Okay.
So, that was her job. Okay. So get out of here. We're doing Jesus time now. Okay. So these people left our churches, but they never really belonged with us. Otherwise, they would have stayed with us. When they left, it proved that they did not belong with us. I have a friend that was a pastor for 16 years. He stopped believing in Christianity, and the people to defend their treatment of him said, "Oh, he never believed."
Right.
He never believed. So
what chapter is that, John? What?
1 John chapter 2, verses 19.
Yeah, so I believe that there's a few different ways to look at it, and there's a few different. The Bible says what the Bible says, but there is, and I know you don't like buts when I say that, but
no, I mean, like, people use this.
Yes.
People, I want you to share with the audience. I want you to talk about how you went through 37 churches.
But I will. But there's a few different circumstances with that verse. And so it really depends on the circumstance whether that verse applies or not. And the number one thing that I think that verse is used for is cop-out. So if someone is coming to a church and they're not a believer and they want to hurt Christians, or they're just gossiping, they're not growing in their faith, they're hurting a church or whatever, and then they leave because they're not getting their way, then yeah, that verse probably absolutely applies. But if you're a Christian that knows you love God and you are seeking a home church, you're seeking somewhere to grow in your faith, you're seeking somewhere to get closer to Jesus and to have more Christian friends in your life so that you can get the old out and the new in, and you really want to surround yourself with godly people, and you don't fit a mold, or you aren't part of the clique, or you aren't someone that's been going to their church for 20 years, so you're not in their social club, then, when you leave, then all of a sudden you were the problem. You aren't Christian. You were never saved.
Oh, they're Sarah's backsliding. We got to pray for her. She's backsliding, right?
Yeah. So, I had some influence of church growing up. My grandma was Methodist, and we went to a Methodist church, vacation Bible school, that whole thing.
I'm a Baptist, and I married a Methodist.
No.
I need to go get this checked out. Is that ink dry?
That was my childhood. Okay.
I'll forgive it.
My mom didn't want anything to do with organized religion. She's from Newport Beach, California, the heart of the Jesus Revolution in the 60s and or 70s. I don't remember. But anyways.
Did she get saved on acid?
No.
Oh, okay, because that would explain a lot. That would explain a lot.
She went to church and actually was going to the church out there that was all part of it in Newport Beach. And they talked a lot about the rapture, and they talked a lot about burning in hell if you're not saved.
Turn or burn.
Yes. And they also made her feel like she wasn't good enough, and that she, despite whatever she did, that she was going to hell. And she'd have all these bad dreams about, oh my gosh, if I do this, I'm going to hell. Or, oh my gosh, because I have this thought, I must not be saved or whatever. So she turned away completely from organized religion. Still believed in God, but didn't really practice, didn't go to church, and actually raised us to really question everything about church. Okay. Mm-hmm. So my grandma on the other side, who was a wonderful Christian woman, did so many things for people, loved people, no matter who they were, how they acted, or whatever. She was so patient with human beings.
Now, did your grandma teach you how to read the King James Bible and how to lie to the cops?
No, we didn't.
Was that my upbringing?
We didn't use that was yours. We didn't use the King James Bible because I never remember when we were reading the Bible as kids, like the wording of the King James. I don't know what she used, but I didn't know that mattered back when I was 8. So I just knew that these people were really nice. It was a loving youth group. We did a lot of fun things, crafts, that whole thing. And in the summer, we had a week that we went and did like all kinds of fun stuff at the beach and so on. So I just knew I always had a love for God. So, but then in my teens and early 20s, I was the person that said, this thing is a book written by man. How can it be the word of God, right? These people are insane. And then in my early 20s, I had a friend at work that got saved, and she took me to Saddleback, and
the Saddleback, right? Rick Warren, purpose-driven life, all that jazz.
Orange County, California. I'm from Orange County, and so she took me there, and that's when I say that I got saved, because that's when, as an adult, I made the conscious decision that yes, this is what I believe, and yes, okay, this makes all the sense in the world. Like, it just clicks with my thoughts, beliefs, how I feel like I've been pulled in what direction. And then so I just got more and more into church. But probably like in my early 20s to mid 20s, I was definitely what you'd consider a cultural Christian. So like I loved God, and I prayed, and I went to church, but I didn't really like get into serve. I wasn't in a small group. I wasn't, a lot of my friends weren't Christians. So I was still kind of doing non-Christian things and being a Christian. So anyways, God worked on me. So I really feel like I was a little bit deeper in my faith towards my mid-20s, and I was starting to really get on this journey of following God and saying yes to God, and I felt led to move across the country.
Okay.
And so that's a whole other story for another day. So I ended up moving in 2012. First I was in Ohio for almost a year, and then I was in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh was my goal. So I got to Pittsburgh and knew that I'm following God. I need to find a church. I had found a couple churches I attended in Ohio, but they had issues. One was, oh, honey, you don't have to worry about it because you tithe. And the other one was, I don't think you're tithing.
Name it, claim it, sow your seed, that type of crap.
Right. Okay. So I'm like, oh God. So, okay. So more guilt from these churches. Right. So then when I got to Pittsburgh, I attended, I went to a few different ones in my area where I was living, just to kind of check them out. Because if it was close to my house would be cool. And I was immediately like, no. So one of the churches, I remember walking in the door, and just how I was greeted, I walked right back out the door. I'm like, this is a cult. So
wait, how were you greeted? I want to know how you were.
4 people came up to me and were just like, "Hi, how are you? Here's the bulletin. Would you like us to tour the church? And let me show you where it's at." And they were just like so cheerful, like completely fake, right?
Could it be that they were happy and then you were being an introvert, or because?
I mean, maybe, but like, I don't need 4 people swarming me. I don't like. So maybe my introvertedness like was a little bit at play, but I also know now that I have a pretty strong gift of discernment.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
And
you do.
so I was just like, get me out of here, right? So I got out.
Yeah, some greeting team's gonna watch this and say, "Is that us? Are we the creepy ones?" That's hilarious to me.
Like,
Okay, go ahead.
we're desperate for people. Give us your money, right? So,
Yeah.
So anyways, and then I probably went to, the number is 37, and this 37th church is my now home church. Okay, so it took
So
me
the Law Church in Pittsburgh was number 37.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I went to, so in my search, I was I don't know if I ever got to be a member per se, but like I went religiously. I served there. I got to know the people there, etc. So my first, I would say, almost home church. It was probably number 20, maybe.
Okay.
And somewhere around there. But the churches before that were like, I walked into a few King James only churches because I didn't know that was a thing. And then they started this, I, thy, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, no. I don't, if King James is your thing, cool beans for you. It's not mine.
It's not any Bible translation.
No, it's not. And if you use it at your church and you love it, hey, great. If it feeds you, no, I'm not knocking it, but it's not for me. I don't.
No, that's my job. That's my job. I'll mock them.
I don't understand it. I'm not following it, right?
I'll mock them. Paul used sarcasm in the Bible, and Mike used sarcasm against King James only Nazis.
So, those are a few of those. I walked into some smaller churches that were obviously dying. When you walk in, you just don't feel the Holy Spirit. No one's smiling. No one's happy.
There's only 10 people, and they wonder why they're not growing.
And then it's like all of the 10 people are staring at you. Like, why did this lady walk into this place? Like,
because they haven't seen it.
I'm sorry, it's that church on the outside.
They haven't seen anyone new in 15 years, so they think you're there to bum money or.
So, anyway, I also sometimes it's probably my fault too, because I don't, when I go to a church or anywhere, especially to go buy a car or anything, I don't want people to think I have money. I don't want to look like I'm all well put together. So I don't try very hard to look well put together. If someone's going to accept me for who I am, they're going to accept me for who I am. And it's going to be because of that I belong somewhere, not because someone wants something from me. Mm-hmm. So I do kind of play that game a little. But anyways, so my first church, this is where I really started to deconstruct. Because my first church that I had found that I got really close with, I was tithing my full 10%. I was proud of myself. My first husband at the time and I were building a business. We were doing really well with it. And so we were tithing. I was serving on the hospitality team. I was running spaghetti fundraisers. And I did a lot of the cooking behind the scenes. I'm a behind the scenes person and I love to cook. So I was helping my friend Donna. She did a lot of the cooking and I helped do a lot of the stuff, and she loves to cater and I like to be behind the scenes. So I was a person that collected money, not really behind the scenes, but I sat behind a desk, collected money, checked people in. And then I also cooked, but I wasn't a server or any of that. So, that was my role. And I really, really loved it. We shopped for the food. We did all the stuff. So I really like being on that team.
You told me you really loved this church.
Yeah. So in 2016, my first husband had gotten diagnosed with end-stage renal disease or kidney failure, and he was a type 1 diabetic, and it was just sudden. One moment in time, 1 second of time, we were running a business, had grown it into a year of $300,000 in revenue. We were making plans for the future. And then literally like a phone call and a second away, he was with facing options of dialysis, transplant, or hospice. And he could no longer with the dialysis and stuff. We had to scale down our business. It was just a disaster. So when he first got diagnosed, I was inconsolable. Nobody could say anything to help me. My primary care physician had to put me on medicine to sleep. It was a bad time in my life, and I remember going to church. That it was a Wednesday that happened. I remember going to church on Sunday, and the message was great. And I sat after church and just sat in the pew, and it wasn't a pew, it was a chair. I sat there, and the pastor came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and prayed with me, and I just cried. And people in the church, over the next few weeks kind of found out what was going on. And, they called and, they asked if I needed anything. And at least a few people that I was really close to. And, I didn't know what was going on. So it was very new to me. And within a few weeks, like with everybody in the church starting to really know what was going on with me, like people, it was either constantly, how you doing at church, and swarming me and asking me how I was doing. But it's like, what do you do and say when 40 people are asking you how you're doing and you're in the middle of a crisis, right?
People want to hear two things. I'm good or I'm fine.
Well,
they're not equipped.
They were hoping that things are getting better and they can say, praise Jesus. But when you're like, I'm dying inside, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't really have a lot of help where I truly need help. I don't know. I have not been faced in this in my life to know how to ask for help. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what the hell I need. So it'd be nice if someone would just do something for me or, try. So, churches like the ones that do meal trains when just life is hitting the fan. Mm-hmm. Meal trains, someone that real well, come over to the house and do some cleaning, do some laundry, help with things and say, hey, you know what? I know you're going through a really hard time. And I know you, Sarah, I know you're not really good at asking for help because you're the helper. Tell me a day where you're going to be home.
Well, what made you start to not believe?
So, after a few weeks and, things weren't getting any better. Things kept getting worse for about 2 years, really. After just even a few weeks, people started avoiding me because it was just too heavy for mm-hmm. them to, they didn't know what to say. So they said nothing. Mm-hmm. They started to avoid me. And then within a couple of months, we had a church split and a scandal with something with a senior pastor there. I don't know.
I can do it.
So kind of know the story, but it's no one's business. But so the pastor that I was very close to, that was there for me those first few weeks when I was inconsolable left.
Well, go back. Okay, so the church split. You don't have to go into detail.
The church split because the one pastor, the two pastors were friends, and then the one pastor that was the one I was closest to.
I'm talking about the emotional impact that had.
So they left, and it caused a church split. So a couple of the people that I was closest to left the church. They stayed in contact, but they weren't there anymore. Church wasn't the same. Going to church wasn't the same. And then some of the people that were still there when I was going and on the hospitality team were telling me that I just needed to pray away my chains of bondage. I'm like,
so they said that
we're trying to get my husband on dialysis and to qualify for a transplant, but I need to pray away my chains of bondage.
So they imply that you were demonized. That's great.
Yeah. So I was done. Never went back. I was like, F this. And I was like, okay, because I'll tell you the truth, I wasn't my best self in those times. I was faced with life or death situations by the second every single day. We were always going to the emergency room. We were trying to get meds right. We were trying to get, him to qualify for not hospice, but for a transplant. So he had a lot of health screenings to do, and tests and things he needed to get fixed. It was a hellish time in my life. I was also working a full-time, very demanding job. And my boss was also at that time giving me a hard time. And so in the midst of all that, I got laid off. My husband was no longer working. Our business went from $300,000 in revenue to $15,000 in revenue because we had to give contracts. And I was emotional. I was defensive. I was very prickly. I was very vulnerable, and I was afraid of being taken advantage of by people. I was afraid of being judged by people because all of a sudden, like, I wasn't put together. I wasn't tithing. I all of my money went to medications now that I couldn't afford. So my life got flipped upside down, and instead of being loved and guided through it with people that like handle heavy stuff, I was judged. I was pushed aside. I was told to pray my demons away, those kinds of things, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, you were labeled. I can tell you right now, baby, you were labeled a negative Nancy, a Debbie Downer, all these spiritual buzzwords like backsliding, falling away, falling from grace. These were probably
I needed to have more faith. Have more faith. Be more positive. I heard it all.
Yeah,
and I wanted to punch those people in the face. So I probably for about a year after that, and the pastor that actually left, that so I had met up with his wife, and she met up with me, and she was just really really encouraging and very helpful, and encouraged me to get back into a church. And
now, is that okay? I'm getting lost on the time. Now, when this happened, did this trigger your 37 church hunt?
No, this didn't trigger the hunt yet.
Okay.
So, well, the hunt was on when I moved. So about 20 churches, and I found somewhere where I thought was
okay, yeah, you said that. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is your church that you liked, that you were serving in, and this happens a lot to people. They get really.
So all of a sudden, also, so then I was asked to do something. The Amazon guy's here, and he's talking to the cat. So that was cute. But so I was serving. So I was tithing. I was serving. I was very active, and all of a sudden I couldn't be, right. I was working. I was taking care of a sick spouse. I didn't have any money because medication costs went from $50 a month to $500, $600, $700, $900 in a month, and more than that. So all of a sudden I wasn't serving anymore. I wasn't tithing, and I was emotional. I wasn't the same like helpful and caring person. So I was a problem. So so when I left there after I was told to pray my demons away, or pray that my chains of bondage away was the exact word. Then it was almost a year, and then the pastor that had left, his wife and I met up for lunch, and she was just very, very caring. And
now, were you saying that you didn't believe in Jesus at this point, or you just done with organized churches?
The church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I had the thoughts of like, what do I believe? And okay, Lord, I know you're real. Jesus, I know you came and died for our sins. But I'm supposed to have accountability partner and friends that are Christians and be in my Christian community and be the church and be part of a church and all of these things. But like I was like shunned. Like I wasn't shunned. Shunned is my own word. They didn't say that, but I left because I was in a horrible place in my life and I just wasn't being met with understanding. I was being met when, oh, she missed a Sunday. Like, you know, when the greeter knows you and then they're like, oh, we missed you last week, and that's okay the first couple times. But then when it's like, oh, you know, oh, we haven't seen you in a while. Oh, you know, like we don't need those comments. It's one thing if you don't really know what's going on in a person's life, but when you know what's going on in a person's life and you say that, like that's not nice. So just the judgment, I just didn't need it. And I will tell you and admit that it was probably, I mean, not probably, I have a lot to do with that because I was in such a state where I felt judged.
Yeah.
So any slight comment, I was like, you know what, that was judgmental. And so that was on me. They weren't probably, that was not their intention.
And I was there too. I was there when like I was at the top.
Trying to be helpful. They just and they don't know what's going on inside your heart and your mind, right? So they're trying to be helpful, but they're not, and they actually help you. Like be like, screw this.
I pushed Christians away. You know, I was at the top of my game. I was at the mountain at Christian service. I was a pastor serving the church. But after my divorce, and I told a pastor buddy this, he's like, you know, I'm worried about your faith, Mike. And I said in his office, I said, me and Jesus are good, but I need a break from his damn kids.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt because everyone told me they told me I was backsliding. I lost faith that I fell from grace. And that makes you like the church that I went to. I should have took a couple months off from attending the church to heal and get into therapy. But I did a Christian thing where I just sucked it up and I went back into a church. I was not ready. And I was ready to fight. I was ready to punch someone in the face.
You know, at this point in time, you're fighting for your survival. And in my case, I was not only fighting for mine, but my spouse's survival. Literally. Okay. And I was in a don't come at me, I will fight you kind of mode because you're in protective mode because your family's being threatened, okay? And you know, we are, and probably we're dealing with demons. I mean, obviously. I mean, so obviously
there was spiritual warfare for sure,
yeah,
but
the devil knows
that's a different topic for a different day.
Totally.
But the human element, we're talking about the human element of why people deconstruct.
Yeah. So I would say, so after I met with that pastor's wife that had left, she encouraged me to get back into church. And so I reached out to my friend, and around the same time, and that's how God works, around the same time, my friend was like, hey, this new church is starting up. Come with me. It's going to be great. You know, I'm really intrigued by it. And
is that my friend's church?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the church that had the pastors, guys. It's why I married. It's not why I married Sarah. I married her because she's hot. But I knew the pastor. Friends. We had mutual friends.
Mutual friends on Facebook. So, and I'm glad. So I went to their kind of startup meetings and things before they launched, and
that's crazy to me that you were there. Like we were.
I know.
We're in this. Oh, you got a guest coming up behind you. There's Gigi. Oh, no, Gus. There's Gus.
So yeah, so I went there, and you know, I loved it. Loved it. Like I was like, okay, getting back into church is a good thing. I've definitely needed this. I need a community. I miss serving. I miss being part of it. And then, so we were going there. It was like 16, 17. We had the stroke. Yeah, so it was in 17 after he had his kidney transplant. We started going there, and We were there for about a year and a half-ish. And God used them in incredible ways to show me that God exists and how good God is. And we had a retaining wall actually outside our house, and that collapsed. And this church was doing Do Good Friday, and they actually, I had asked Pastor Zach if they knew anybody that could give me a really good deal, and I meant a really good deal on a wall because I didn't have a lot of money at that point. And Chris had his stroke a couple months prior, so he had a transplant and then he had a stroke, and so he wasn't working, or waiting on disability. I was the only one income. It was a great time in life. And they then said, we're going to bless you on Do Good Friday, and we're going to have a church. We're going to have a crew of guys from the church and gals. There was a couple gals there too. We're going to come and rebuild that wall for you. They gave me a beautiful Versalock wall. It was such a God thing. It was free for me. Like, I was like blown away because I was not at this point good at asking for help.
No.
So, and I had to like learn how to, because that wasn't healthy. So we stopped going there. The church started, like, people that I knew started to leave. They had some location issues. I mean, a startup church is not easy. A church plant's not easy. God bless the Blairs. So they had a lot of people start to leave. They had location issues. And I was also very busy with Chris and just life. And so I wasn't going consistently and stuff. And, I started to kind of feel, not by the pastors, but by some people at the church, I started to kind of feel kind of judged. And, it was hard to connect in the way that I did. My first church being hospitality, we had a location that was easier to serve. So the way you serve at a church that's set up and tear down every week, it's a little bit harder to do serving the way that I like to serve, how I feel called. So I didn't really get as integrated. That would keep me there when I got really busy. So it was just a fact that I got really busy that I left there, and kind of like the people that I knew weren't there, and they were going to churches more further away. And so I kind of like got disconnected. And so they got a location and all that, but for a little while it was rough for them of locations. So not discounting them at all by any means. So that was a church that helped me come back from my almost deconstructing. I didn't stop believing, but I questioned it, right? I questioned, okay, God, where are you in this? Like, oh, I don't have a community. I don't have a church again. Like, I feel really alone. Like, where are my friends? I don't have, like, I have a couple of friends, but like, I don't have a church people that I have family that I see like continuously. And so, with the pastor's wife encouraging me to go, and then my friend saying, hey, come with me to this, and then getting connected with Hill City, that was good. And then kind of.
What year did you start attending law church?
July of 21.
July 21?
Mm-hmm.
And then we met
in November of 21.
What of 21?
November.
Okay.
I have to tell him, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, so it was about mid 2018 when I got kind of disassociated with Hill City, and for about a year, I would say, after that, I was just super busy. I started falling away from just Christianity. I was in survival mode completely. Chris had his transplant, and then he had that stroke. Trying to recover from the stroke, him not working, waiting on disability. I was working like 100-hour weeks, and I was exhausted. And then we started, I got a better job, made more money, stopped working so much, but was working probably a good 60 hours a week. And then my friends were just encouraging me to get back into church. So I went to church with her, to her church, didn't really like it. And I was like, oh, there's this other church near my parents. I'm going to try that. It wasn't good. I don't know theology well enough to remember why someone said something that was wrong, but like I could just tell like the preaching wasn't biblical completely. So that didn't work out, and and I had been fed, of course, with Saddleback being my church, my home church for a while. Plus, I also watched online all the time. Like
Yeah.
I could tell what real teaching was.
Yeah, I had issues dating you at first because you were a homer for Rick Warren. I didn't really consider him a good preacher until I start watching him. People who say he doesn't use the Bible, he uses too much Bible sometimes.
He
Like
preaches the Bible.
that one sermon we watched, he had I count them, he had 18 scripture references, and I know there are secondary.
He had someone say, you should really drive it home. And so there was a few sermons he had where he was like, okay, for the ones that want me to drive this home, I'd be like, Joshua 1 and Matthew 2 and just keep flashing up different Bible verses that will show at this point.
I mean, I know we started dating the year he retired, but I really do. I came away because watching him with you, I did come away with a new appreciation of his ministry and what he wants to do moving forward with global missions. You can't argue with it.
He also didn't teach on secondary issues, and if he did, he said they were secondary issues.
Yeah, so I never heard him teach on end time theology or anything like that. I know he did say that
Jesus is coming back.
He did say that he thinks the Lord's coming back in the next 10 years or whatever, and that's why he's doing that global missions. You can't argue with his results. God has used him in the purpose-driven church method, model, whatever, to reach a lot of people.
So I will say that being there and having been taught in a church that I know taught the Bible for so long, I knew how to recognize it and how to recognize that it wasn't, right? So that mattered to me. And so getting back into church, and when I started to seek church, Hill City wasn't doing, I don't remember where they were. I think they were, I'm not sure, but I looked it up, and then they were just sporadically meeting, I think, at that time. So I didn't go back to that church.
Well, they do that church anywhere now, so.
Yeah, they do that anywhere, but they also are at a high school now. But they have some land and some property different places. So at that point in time, they were meeting at different places and having tent things and doing.
Yeah, I went to a service there. That's funny that we were a couple months apart from meeting each other, and I was at Hill.
I went back to that church because of that. Didn't leave them for any specific reason. But my church hunt was on again. And so in 19, I was hunting for churches and went to another 12, 13, 14, whatever, up till 36. And when I looked back, then went out and counted it. So I had gone all over Pittsburgh. I visited a church out in Monroeville, which, if you know where Aliquippa is, it's an hour plus away.
What made you stay at the log church?
Well, it was the last church that I went to. So, and I loved it. So I went through all of these different churches for different reasons on why they weren't the church for me. And so I stopped seeking in, I think it was, from 19 to 20. So for a year, I visited all those different churches. And some of them I went 3, 4, 5 times.
Okay.
Because I heard something I liked. I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. And then after a few of they say some crazy stuff that's not biblical, or they start to get judgmental, or they have a sermon that's extremely whack or whatever.
Yeah, they like to sneak in the crazy.
Yeah. Right? You go and it's a good one because it's what you needed, and you're like, okay, I could do this. And then a few in, you realize no.
Yeah, so, I was attending a church that I realized by number 4 they were ripping off sermons. I was like, hey, I know that sermon. You didn't preach that. Charles Stanley did. So that's always fun for me too. to have the gift of discernment when you were like,
And I'm
yeah,
sure there's a lot of that goes on, to be honest. Like, you can tell when someone is preaching from the heart and when someone is up there reading something. So I
honestly don't know how you stayed at the log church in the mind frame that you were in or coming out of.
I'll tell
Pastor
you.
Mike is in your face.
I'm getting there. I'll get there.
Okay.
So, but this is important to know. So for my coming back, okay?
Okay.
So after I was exhausted. I was exhausted by going to churches. I was exhausted with all of it. I was exhausted from working. I was exhausted from life. At this point, I had filed for a divorce. And because my first husband was very sick, but he was also abusive.
Yeah. You gotta clear that up. She wasn't piecing out on her dying husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was very sick, but he was also abusive, and he he didn't deserve to be like in a place where he couldn't take care of himself, and he wasn't allowing me to help him. But
she took care of him.
I did. Even when we were separated.
I want to make that clear.
So so I was working with his family to try to get him into assisted living out in California where his family was. And he decided he really didn't want to do that, and he ended up leaving to go into a new relationship instead, which was a whole drama. But anyway, so because he left the house and he was in a new relationship, he filed for a divorce. So he died before that. So I was dealing with all that drama in 20. Okay, so I was exhausted by that and work and everything else going on. And he had got the transplant, but in the beginning of 2020, he went into rejection and rejected the transplant. So he was back on dialysis, not compliant with his food, and basically choosing death. Okay, so it was a very, very hard time. It was dramatic and chaotic, and I don't wish it on anybody.
Yeah, I don't know how that was when you tell me that story, it just seems like something out of a really bad Lifetime movie.
Yeah. So I was not at that point in any right mind to be like going and searching churches again. So I had stopped. So I went through that. He died at the end of 2020, and I had just started to kind of start to go out in the dating world, which if you want to compound trauma, you should do that. So then I was like, oh God, no, I'm going to stay single for a bit. And so I dated a little in 2020, at the end of 2020 into the early 2021. And then after I was like, you know what, I got to work on myself. So I had spent a lot of money over the last 5 years in therapy. And so I was going through a lot of therapy. And so I had put up a lot of boundaries with my mom, and so I really wasn't like going over there much, and I really wasn't going around a lot of people. I had a friend that was living here. She left. She moved out of state. Another friend of mine moved out of state, and other friends were just busy with their lives. And I really felt like God had me in a cocoon. Like I had nobody. I was by myself. People were living their lives and dealing with they were just coming out of COVID, or they had COVID. It was the pandemic of the social isolation, all that fun in 21. And so I didn't know what to do.
I think a lot of people deconstructed during 2020. Also, I think a lot of people stopped going to church. I
became a Christian in 2020. So in 2021, when I was like, okay, I'm out of my marriage. He passed away, so I'm not dealing with any of his stuff anymore, except for all of the financial stuff that, because I was still married, I was tied to and needed to clean up. That was a fun experience. So I was dealing with all of that in 21. And so as things started to calm down, I started having a lot of time on my hands. I also had changed jobs in June of 21. I went from being a director of revenue cycle management for a very busy nonprofit recovery / primary care, occupational health, medication assisted treatment for like opioid addiction. I was their director of revenue cycle management. So that was a very busy job. And then I wanted more work-life balance. So I wanted to bring balance into my life. I wanted to lose weight, wanted to like really work on myself. So I quit that job and took a job at a software company. And thank God I did. That was that. The way that it happened was divine. It was God. Someone messaged me one day on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, would you like to come work with us?" I thought it was a scam at first, and it wasn't. It's my job that I have now. So now I'm a consultant and a subject matter expert in my field, and I get to work a 40-hour work week from home. So I have work-life balance. That was a God blessing because it really helped me work on me. So, but because I didn't really have people around, I wasn't trying to distract myself. I wasn't being a people pleaser. I was really just trying to like take good care of Sara. Um, but I did not like it. I did not like it. It was hard. I spent a lot of time on my couch, curled up in a ball crying and pretending like my couch was God hugging me. I talked to God a lot. I got my Bible out. I started to read. I was like, God, why are all of these doors closing? Then I started taking myself out on little dates. I started booking Christian concerts to take myself to. Started doing things alone, and I hated it. I'm someone that wants to be married, wants to be in a Christian marriage, wants these things, and wants to have people around me, even though I'm an introvert. So I like having people around me. I just don't like.
Yeah, we're gonna test that theory that you want people around you being married to an extroverted pastor.
I like people. I
got it on camera, guys. I got it on camera. She said she wants to be around people,
but I'm the one in the kitchen cooking, and then refreshing the refreshments, and sitting in a corner and just listening to everybody talk, and that, and then at the end of the night, I'm exhausted and need some alone time. But I do like people, but I'm more of a one-on-one conversationalist than I am the center of attention with a big.
And I have observed that like you're never gonna be at the door greeting people.
I mean, I can sit there and say hi or whatever, but I'm not like, I just am not fed by lots of people interacting with me, but I can be there and watch it. And I can be in a corner with someone that needs to have a real conversation.
Yeah, my last church job couldn't quite understand your giftings. And I was like, she's not gonna be up there. Like I had to tell them, I'll be there. I'll greet the hell out of people. High five, love.
I'm not gonna go up to strangers and hold their babies and do all this stuff. Now
Sarah's not running for president anytime soon.
Hey, an introvert can be a leader, okay? And I am a leader, but
that's not
if you have to do a bunch of like political stuff, you have to be fake, you have to be like schmoozy, charming, small talk. That ain't me.
No.
Anyway, back to the story. So I was by myself, and I started to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna venture out of my house, and took myself to the park to read, and started like getting more comfortable in my singleness, and went to Barnes and Noble and coffee shops and read a lot. And I'd go and have coffee with my best friend when he was available every once in a while. He was working and it was hard. So I needed to really just learn how to be by myself and how to soothe myself. And God is the one that got me through that. So I started to really feel a pull for community again. And I had a conversation with God on that.
I think the Holy Spirit does that. I know that's what
it does.
That's what got me back. Like when I was in the deepest of my doubt, I was dating an atheist, and I felt compelled. I needed Christian community, and what woke me up is I was trying to. There were seeds of hope in my life. And I was trying to treat that relationship like a Christian relationship, and it just wasn't going to work that way. So I slowly started to go back to Bible study, and I think if my timing is right, I just dropped my phone. Hope I don't need my Bible.
I heard and felt that.
I think the timing of it is I started to go back to Bible study in like December, and then, or no, I think it was in November, and then like 3 weeks later, I met you.
Yeah, so it was in June, towards the end of June in 21, and so I had started working from home on June 1st, And so I had that whole month. I was single, and I was didn't know what to do with myself after work. Or I cooked for myself. I went to the gym to work out. I lost like 50 pounds in that 6 months. But I was very sad and lonely because I
Yeah,
didn't have
in June of
anybody around me.
21, I retired. I retired from comedy again. My second retirement in 14 years. Uh, Roasting a deaf comic in front of all his deaf comedy. I mean, in front of all his deaf friends, will make you rethink your life. So, uh,
Dave.
so
So I remember it was I think it would just have been the 4th of July. And my mom's birthday was on the 5th of July. So we did our 4th of July thing. And then it was like the 5th or 6th. And I remember sitting in my dining room, and I was sitting at the table, and I was crying, like sobbing. And I'm like, God, why? Like, why in the last, like, few months, like, there's nobody around me. People are leaving the state. My support system's gone. I have to have boundaries up with my mom right now because I'm trying to heal from that stuff and really be able to have boundaries around her. And like, I don't have anybody to support me. I don't, and I heard him say, you need to learn how to support yourself emotionally, right? Emotionally, mentally. Can't rely on people for external validation. And I realize now that I kept myself distracted and helping people in order to do that. And I'm like, well, shoot, that's a toxic trait, right? So I healed from that. And I was like, I don't have the energy to try to keep finding churches.
yeah,
God, you know my heart.
yeah, it's
And
taxing.
you know I've tried. I
Yeah,
have and that's what I had counted, okay? I have tried 36 churches since Saddleback. Okay. I guess technically log church is 38. So since Saddleback, I've been in 36 churches. I have tried to find a church. I don't know what the hell is wrong with your churches, but you need to do something about it.
yeah.
Okay?
It's funny when me and Sarah were dating and we would watch sermons together, and I was looking at churches to introduce myself to. She would listen to like 30 seconds of a sermon and go, nope. And
Next. Yeah, so
it was funny.
to churches I went to, some of them didn't have online, but some of them did. So I would check them out online, and then I would go because I wanted to get the feeling of the people in the church, and you can't feel the church's energy online.
Yeah, you're in trouble if their website hasn't been updated since like '09, and their Facebook looks like MySpace from '04. Like, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but there are some churches that like aren't up. Like, if it's just even very basic, it's okay. But anyways, the sermon online matters, and then going and visiting the church to find the church's energy and how the people are also matter, because that's how you can feel the Holy Spirit. So
Yeah.
does it teach the Bible, and then is the Holy Spirit in the church?
Yes.
So knowing that and being very upset, I said, I feel jaded. Like the couple of times that I have tried to give a home church, I served, I tithed, I did all the things, okay? And it's like, why am I just not finding where I'm supposed to be? Well, no, I know why, because I was supposed to be at the log church. But that's totally my home church. And I just remember God in that voice. And I told you when we were watching The Chosen, oh, I know that voice. Like,
Yeah.
sit down, shut up, and rely on me and trust me. Okay. This is not on your understanding, it's on my doing. And so you need to sit down and you need to trust me and you need to stop being God, because I'm God, you're not. So sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So after that, I was very convicted. I started reading my Bible. I was like, I was really praying. And it was literally the next day after I'd had that argument with God in my dining room, and that I had remembered my friend Kelly had told me about the log church. I'm like, I haven't tried that one yet. And I was like, oh boy, I did. First of all, like, going to church, I usually would go with somebody. So when I was searching for churches, I went with my first husband most of the time.
Now, when you were driving there, babe, and you go out to that community in that neighborhood, was that like, did that scare you at first?
Well, first going up that hill, and the listeners aren't going to know, but we did going up the hill. So there's like these little like mobile home parks.
It gave me cult vibes. I'm not gonna lie. When you took me there,
I turned down a street because it's Roseberry Road or whatever the hell it is, and then but there's Roseberry Way or something that are the mobile home parks.
Yeah.
So I turned down one of those. And I'm like, where the hell is this church? So I got out the Google Maps and looked at the map, and I'm like, oh.
The first time I drove. The first time I drove by myself, and I lost you when we were needing rooted. I pulled into Pastor Sam's driveway because I didn't know where it was dark. I didn't, and I was like, "Where?"
Once you find the church, no.
Okay,
so I pulled up to the church's driveway.
All right, walk me through what made you feel God's love there. What made you be led to be engaged again with your faith? And then,
so I just knew it was okay. So there was it took me a couple weeks, but really the first interaction was what led me and totally made me just want to grow more. First of all, when I did finally find the church, I pulled up to it. It looks like a log cabin. Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's beautiful. And my fondest memories of my grandparents are when we went and stayed in our log cabins in Lake Arrowhead in Big Bear, near Big Bear, California, in the mountains. Okay. I loved the mountains. That's why I moved somewhere where there was 4 seasons. Because I do like having 4 seasons, and I just like the winter vibe anyways. So when we went up to the snow, we stayed in the log cabin, and I always wanted to live in a log cabin when I was little. And
when I told Christians, friends of mine, that I was dating you and what church you were going to, they told me that it was a cult. And let me tell you, to a lukewarm Christian, Pastor Mike and the Lord Church will come out cult-like because they expect you to be a disciple.
Yeah.
They expect growth. And he doesn't water down the gospel at all. So
the first time I got there, I was by myself. So I hadn't gone to a church by myself in a while. I don't think ever. I think I always had someone with me when I went and tried churches. Because it was either Tanya or it was Chris before, and then it was Tanya or Lynn, or Donna. So Kelly had told me about the log church where she went, and at one time, and it had been a while.
Haircut.
You'll get one. You'll be fine.
Sorry guys. Go ahead, baby. I caught myself in the camera. I'm trying to know.
You're wearing a hat. You're fine.
I look like a 60-year-old. I don't know.
You don't. You're fine.
Okay.
So I pulled up. I went in, and I went in on the bottom stair. I know I had never been there before, so I didn't know where the sanctuary was in the building. I just saw the outside of the building. So I walked into the side bottom door. It's where the nursery is, and like the church office and that. And I didn't know anybody, and I just walked up to the first person I saw. And it was this lady. And I said, "Hey, where's the sanctuary? I'm new here. I'm lost. I have no idea where to go." I didn't know at the time that I had run into the director of the women's ministry. And I later found out. But she didn't introduce me to that. She just said, "Hi, my name's Rhonda. And, you're new here. Let me show you, the sanctuary's upstairs. Let me show you around. How about you come sit with me?" And she just wanted to know my story and what I was about. And she was just so kind and nice and genuine. It wasn't fake, because I can smell fake a mile away. She was genuinely a loving human being. And boy, howdy, when I could cry right now when I think of the love of Christ. Like Rhonda, totally.
And I need to share people this. I know this episode is about deconstruction, but 2 years later, both of us went to Wrestling in Doubt. Now we're both members of this church.
Yeah. So she took me, I sat with her, and then Pastor Mike's message. He taught the Bible like he's not like Rick Warren. He's Mike Gestrich. He's not Rick Warren. But I had not ever, not ever, I had not heard a sermon like that really grasped my heart and spoke to me and taught me at the same time, and convicted me in great ways since I was at Saddleback.
Yeah, well, when Sarah and I were talking, when we were just talking on Facebook dating, and she told me what church she goes to, I'm not making this up, guys. I watched 3 of her my pastor, sermons, because I have a role in dating women. If your pastor is whack, you're whack, and you're not getting a taste any of this sexy palsy. That's my role. That is my role for dating. If you're guys, I'm going to tell you, and girls, if their pastor is whack, they're going to have whack theology, and then 6 years later, you're going to realize you're with a false convert or a prosperity Christian, and now you don't know what to do because you're stuck. So don't date someone with a whack pastor. Okay, go ahead, baby.
Don't date someone that's whack at all. Okay, yeah. So anyways, that day was magnificent to me. And then after church, Rhonda was just introducing me to people. And then just the way that she interacted with people and the people were interacting with her and interacting with each other. It was just genuine. You could feel the Holy Spirit when you walked in that building.
You could
feel the Holy Spirit before the sermon, during the sermon, and after the sermon. I had not felt like so powerfully the presence of God, and I'm getting emotional. Like the presence of God is in that church. And so I went back the next week, and the next week after that, and the next week after that, and just like got into it. And then they started advertising Rooted, and they advertised the women's annual worship thing, not worship thing, but the it wasn't a picnic, luncheon, that's it. And I went to the luncheon, and all of these ladies are just, talk about loving human beings, that want God and that are humble, and they're not like fake and all put together. And it was just very comfortable. And then we did crafts, and I was with a bunch of women I didn't know, and then I made friends, and I had felt shunned and not able to make friends, like God didn't want me to have friends. And I just immediately started to make friends there.
Yeah, God's gonna block you.
Yeah, and I met my friend Stephanie there, and her and I did a lot together. And she's just also a loving human being. I just kept meeting loving human being after loving human being there, and I also kept getting fed. And so they started advertising Rooted, and I'm like, I want to do Rooted. This is totally for me. And then when I had already booked a trip to California to visit my friend Kristen. And back when I was kind of feeling isolated before I even found the log church. So my trip just happened to be the week before we started Rooted.
Yeah. And Rooted is our church's discipleship program to help you grow.
Yeah. So I got my book from Rooted, and I looked at the book and where did the book come from and where did Rooted start, and wanted to know all about Rooted. And I found that it was from the Mariners Church, and I'd never heard of the Mariners Church. So I went to California. It was that week after we had done our launch. And my friend Lynn, who had just moved from Pittsburgh to California, she had called me up and asked me if I could come pick her up where she was at and take her somewhere else that she was going to get her storage stuff, because she was actually ultimately moving to Oregon. And I was at my friend Kristen's house, and it was in the morning, and I said, yeah, I'm going to go drive the beach, and I want to go do some stuff. So, hey, I'll come get you, and maybe we can go to my old neighborhood where I grew up in Westminster, California, and get some pho. It's Vietnamese soup. We love pho.
There we go, that pho again. Oh,
it's amazing. It's so
that stuff tastes like crap.
It's amazing.
It's crap. It is crap. God bless you. It smells like sweaty socks.
It's just
and looks like maggots are coming out of the...
Oh my God. They're rice noodles. It doesn't look like maggot at all. You're such something else. Anyways, back to the story. So I I was in, and people aren't going to know, but if you look at the map, and I actually have a picture of the map, I was in Huntington Beach. She called me from Irvine and needed me to come get her in Irvine and take her to Rancho Santa Margarita or Mission Viejo, somewhere over there. So I drove from Huntington Beach and I took the Pacific Coast Highway to Newport, and I stopped at the Balboa Pier. And at the Balboa Pier, there was a guy there that was holding up a sign that says, Jesus loves you. So I rolled down my window and asked him if I could take a picture of him, and he said yes. So I took a picture. And he said, Jesus loves you, God bless you, blah, blah, blah. He was just there randomly on a Saturday morning. And so I drove around Balboa Peninsula, which is where my grandparents were, and I grew up on Balboa Peninsula. So I was in my oldest stomping grounds and kind of just driving around, just feed my soul. This was kind of like my little mini eat, pray, love vacation, right? So, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. I'm just looking at about. I'm listening to you. I am listening to you, baby.
What did I say?
You guys are seeing marriage, enrichment, opportunity.
Whenever he starts to look at his phone, I immediately say, "Are you listening?" Okay, so I was around the beach. I went to the beach, and I wanted to go to Newport. So this matters because of the route. Sometimes in the Bible, you like, why does this matter? But it matters because it's showing you the route. So the part of the story where I went to the beach to feed my soul, because I was feeling pretty deflated and defeated and so on and so forth that morning too. So I was like, well, it'd be good for me to see Lynn and good for me to get her. And this just worked out that she's down here. So I drove from Newport Beach to Irvine. And when you drive from the Pacific Coast Highway into Irvine, which is inland from the beach, you take a certain road. And I'm on that road and I'm listening to Ann Wilson's My Jesus song over and over again. And I'm crying because I'm just like, you know what, I just need fed, and Lord, I'm on this mission, right? And I drove by the church and I saw the sign that said Mariners Church. And at first it didn't click, but then I was like, wait a minute. Mariners Church? Isn't that where Rooted's from? So I pulled over. I took pictures. I pulled over and I looked up Rooted Mariners Church. And sure as hell, it started at Mariners Church. And that was the Mariners Church. I'm like, okay, it's probably like one global campus or something. Oh no, the Irvine campus of Mariners Church is the Mariners Church where Rooted got started. And I just lost it. I'm like, I can't even, like, it was God confirming to me 110% that I'm on the right path. I am where I'm supposed to be and everything is okay. And it literally changed, that moment changed my life. And then I knew that, like, I needed to be 100% committed to Rooted. I needed to be 100% committed to Log Church. I needed to be 100% committed to this life of following God. And Rooted was going to help me do that. And then, then I picked my friend up, told her the story. We were both crying. And Lynn is my friend that took me to Saddleback, where I got saved when I was 21, by the way. I dropped her off at her friend's house or to meet her friend in Rancho Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo area. And we drove by Saddleback on the way there, by the way. And we said, oh my God, I fly home on Monday. So before, she goes up to Oregon and before I fly home, for old time's sake, we're going to the Saddleback service tomorrow. So went back to my friend's house in Huntington Beach, where I stayed at them. And then I got up the next morning and went and picked Lynn up, and we went to Saddleback and went to a service there for old time's sake. And so this completely unplanned vacation to Orange County, California, and being at Rooted at the Log Church in Pittsburgh, the two combined was just like, number one, I will never, ever, 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 ever in my life ever have a doubt again about God being real or Jesus being real or any of it. Because it will never, ever, ever, this could not have happened any other way other than God showing me where I was supposed to be. Using the people in my life that saved me, that knew me from childhood. And this whole eat, pray, love experiencing of, finding the church and, okay, I'm going to do Rooted. And then
Did you just say eat, pray, love? Did you just make an eat, pray, love reference?
I did about 20 minutes ago, so I guess
no, you just did it again. That's hilarious.
I did it again. I said it was a mini Eat, Pray, Love kind of ish thing.
But mine is like the sex orgies and all that.
Yeah, no sex or orgies, unfortunately.
Okay, like no Italian man with hairy testicles.
I said Eat, Pray, Love ish. Thank you very much.
And I just need to say, yesterday out in California,
and I booked that trip before I found the log church.
Okay, so I just gotta say, God is working out in the state of California because we all know how liberal it is, but 5,000 people just yesterday were baptized. So this whole idea that God's not alive and active in our country and people don't want God.
I'll tell you too, California is liberal. Where that happened is the Jesus Resolution Beach, which is actually a place called Corona del Mar, which is across the harbor of Newport Beach and Balboa Peninsula.
Yeah.
So that area there, highly, highly conservative and Christian. But like people come from all over. They do those baptisms in that bay all the time. So it's where Calvary Chapel really started.
Yeah.
Chuck Smith and all that. So like that area of Orange County is so you've got Mariners, of course, that started Rooted. That's now like a global discipleship program. You've got the Saddleback, of course. I think Saddleback might have been there before Mariners. But you have Calvary Chapel where they got started. And then you also have like a lot of different big churches, all in Orange County, California. So Orange County is the county just south of Los Angeles and north of San Diego in Southern California.
Now, the real question
San Diego and Los Angeles is very liberal, but Orange County is pretty conservative.
The real question is, how close were you to Orange County choppers?
Were they in Anaheim?
Yes.
So where I grew up, I was about 10 miles away from there, and where we moved when I was 20 to Orange is about 2 miles away.
I just got a 25-cent payment from Venmo.
Why?
Venmo just paid me a 25 cent. I don't know. I mean, technically, is that our first donation live on camera? We just got 25 cent. I don't know.
Oh, Living for Jesus Venmo?
Yeah.
Our first ever donation was 25 cents?
I guess. I don't know. Someone transferred. So Rooted. Rooted is a 10-week program. You did it, and we started to talk.
Yes. And Rooted continues the story, and actually our leader Candace had said you need to revise that story because now you can add the engagement in marriage. So Rooted, the whole Eat, Pray, Love thing, and Rooted and everything else. And then
I'm the dude. I'm the dude in your Eat, Pray, Love story.
You're the potty that.
Yeah.
No orgies. I don't know where you got that. There's no orgies in Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay, don't say I don't know.
You're the one that said orgy.
I never read the book. Maybe I was on the wrong website.
Here he is. He didn't even read the book. There was a movie too, by the way.
And I'll never read it.
You're always telling me that I don't ever make references to things, and I finally do. And you didn't even read it.
I'm glad
So, anyways, you're the dude. So, I had a couple of friends that told me they were doing Rooted again, and when I met Mike, I said, "Hey, you should really do Rooted and see what it's about," you know. So he did. He signed up for it, and then I had a friend of mine tell me from my previous Rooted group that he was doing it again, and so I was like, I could do it again. I didn't know it was a possibility to do it again. I'm sure I want to do it again. So Mike and I did it together, and he proposed to me the first night of Rooted in our Rooted group. So
the Rooted leader probably hate me. They probably hated me because I stole their intro thunder, but my bad, Scotty and Morgan. We love you.
Yes.
2 snaps.
But yes, well, we got engaged. We got engaged the first night of Rooted, and by the end of Rooted, we were married because we got married on March 26th.
And so I just did it again.
Rooted means so much to us because, first of all, it really confirmed to me that I'm never going to deconstruct again. Yeah. And second of all, no matter what happens in my life, and then I committed to having Jesus in the center of my life and my decisions around that. and the following of God.
I'm
And
glad because you
and then I
married
met
a
Mike,
pastor.
and I married a pastor. And who knew that 2 years ago for me that this was ever going to be a thing?
Yeah.
And so yeah, here we are. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean, 2 years ago, I would have never in a million years thought that as a pastor, I would ever question my faith. But I just did Rooted again for the men's group because I needed men of God and I wasn't trusting Christian men. Guys, what made me doubt my faith is a lot of Christian men turned on me after my divorce and I put walls up.
yeah.
I was not trusting other pastors, and I look back now and I can see there were good men trying to help me. Like there were like a group of pastors that came over and helped me pack up, helped me clean my house, the parsonage. A parsonage is a church owned by a house. If you don't know the terminology, guys.
A house
So,
earned by a church.
huh? What?
You said church owned by a house. It's a house
Oh,
owned by
yeah.
a
I
church.
meant a house owned by a church. Sorry, I got tongue twisted. So I wasn't trusting Christian men, and I was because I was just hurt. There are friends to this day that have not reached out to me since my divorce, and that crushed me. So when I started, like I said
Yeah,
earlier,
divorce is hard because people don't know like what to think or who to talk to, and they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, so they just kind of go away because it's easier.
bros before hoes, man. Like
It's
I
hard.
like
It's
I
hard.
get that. Like I'm joking,
A
and I
lot of
get
things
that.
are hard for people and they don't
Yeah,
know. Either that or sometimes it also reminds them that they're in a bad situation themselves and
yeah,
they're not
they hate
ready
their
to.
wife. Yeah, they. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They don't hate their wife. They.
Well, they're fearful that what's happening to you could happen to them, and
Yeah,
so
like
they
it's a
wanna
curse.
they run the other direction because they don't
Like
want to
it's a
admit that.
curse. So I was really hurt. So my hurt, like I remember and I'm so glad I did Rooted again because it
Me
made
too.
like because they said the leader said that my vulnerability as a pastor helped open the group up,
Yeah.
and I was scared. I thought that this was gonna make it or break it for me, not my faith wise, but um I was really afraid that I was gonna get hurt this year.
Yeah, you were going to compound your trauma.
Yeah, and I didn't. They love me. The other pastor, and I just want to clear up. I'm not on staff at this church. I just attended, and we do Limping for Jesus. Uh, Limping for Jesus is not tied to this church, but this is our home church. So my deconstruction and reconstruction, really was driven by hurt, and I reconstructed because people loved me back to faith. They and here's what I learned. You can see it behind me, guys. I have all these degrees in theology. It don't matter who you are. You can battle with doubt. Life can change like that, and I went from having my kid every day, and I was pissed off at God because I was like, I served you as a pastor. How dare you do this to me? And I realized unpacking that he didn't do anything to me. He's not the bad guy in this story. And there's people who rejected me. They're not the bad people. They're not the bad guys either.
Mm-mm.
So right now, as the
Being
May,
being redirected to where we're supposed to be,
yeah,
and it
May,
takes years sometimes. It sucks. It's hurtful. It's painful. It's dreadful. It's horrific, but worth it.
yeah, but
I
as
would
it,
do all of it all over again the exact same way because I love who I am right now. I love who I'm with right now, and I love where
yeah,
I'm at right now.
I love who I'm with too, and I
But
gotta say I love Sarah
that's
very
good.
much. She checks all the boxes for me. Um, but if God takes her before me, I'm being single forever. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing this for a third time. And I know this will cancel me, but I might change teams. I don't know. Um, because at least if a dude's gonna fight, we're gonna watch sports after. So, I don't know. So, but no,
I don't know why you go some places you do
because I'm a comic with trauma. So, so as of May 31st, 2022, we are both active members of a church. We're probably
the
gonna,
same church.
huh?
The same church.
Yeah, the same church. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're in separate rooms right now, but we go to the same church. It's the only time I see my wife. No.
He's
So
actually right behind me.
yeah, yeah. So
Can you hear me knocking?
yeah, don't break the illusion of the Limping for Jesus studio, baby. Okay, so we're doing Limping for Jesus. We have new fire in this ministry, passion, desire. Or the reason why we wanted to talk about this today is because of our experience with, I would say, flirtation of deconstruction. We care about people who are deconstructing.
Well, we
And
just want them to know how much they're loved by God.
mm,
And unfortunately, people disappoint us and they let us down because we're all dealing with things, right? And so what happens is like when we start to deconstruct, then we are looking at we're basically blaming God for what people have done to us in our lives. And it's not because of the humans we get saved. It's not because of the humans that we are going to heaven. It's because of God. And humans are humans and we're all broken and we all have issues. And I just remember this story so much, and I'll share it. I know we're long on time, but I was working at a recovery center. Not really a recovery center, it was a recovery company, and we had multiple locations all over Ohio. But we were in a executive meeting once, and we had to go around the room and share a story about why we do what we do. And um, you know before that, our medical director gave an update on something. And there we had this one client. She was a 32-year-old female, and she was known by a lot of people because she had been in treatment there for like 8 years, and she had done really, really well. And in the last year that she was on with us, she was just doing well and taking her medication at home. And she had 5 kids, ages 2 to 8. And
that's a lot of kids.
she had gotten custody back of all of them. She was
That's
working.
a whole youth group.
She had lost custody when she was doing her drugs and that, but she had gotten them back. She was doing so well. And she had said, I remember when she'd come in one time to our department. I was in the revenue cycle billing patient services department. And she was talking to one of the girls there, and she's like, oh, she'd said, oh, God is so good. And then one of my staff had asked her, are you going to a church right now? And then she's like, no, I don't know about them churches. I've tried, and they just don't like people like me. And I'm like, oh man, that's sad. And then my staff member had said, oh, I keep trying. There's good ones out there. If you ever want to come with me to my church, you're welcome. And she's like, okay, thank you. So this was probably a month before this meeting I had with the executive meeting where our medical director updated us. And he said, I just got the saddest news ever. So-and-so, who we know has been doing so well in the last year and got custody of their kids. And it was actually like one of our featured stories and testimonials of our business. Well, she had gone to a friend's birthday party, and they had told her there's not going to be any drugs there. She's like, I'm not trying to get, tripped up or whatever. And so the people around her who said, no worries, they took her, or she went to this party with them and ended up ODing and dying that night. And left her 5 kids.
I hate when that happens.
So, and I just remember thinking of what she said about, I don't know about churches. They don't like people like me. Can you imagine if we liked people like her? She'd be alive today.
Yeah.
Instead, these people that tricked her into doing drugs at a party, because that was the company she had, and that was the influence on her life that she had. She died and left her 5 kids after she'd worked for 10 years to get her life in order and to have all of her kids with her and be working and doing well. And finally got to a point where she was doing well, and because she loved God and believed in God, but the people of churches didn't like people like her.
Yeah,
And
people don't get community at church. They're gonna get it somewhere. And we saw evangelists rally against a single mom,
yeah.
and I don't know why they fixate on single moms like they're the antichrist, but they do, and it pushes people
I remember
away.
leaving. I remember leaving that day and saying, "Oh God, man, this doesn't want to make you deconstruct. I don't know what is. I hope to God he doesn't evangelize more places." It's the way that I just,
Yeah. So that is why we care about people who are deconstruction. You know, I interact on our YouTube channel a lot with people's comments, and a lot of times
I do too
people,
on TikTok.
yeah,
There's a
and
lot of deconstructing people on TikTok,
and a lot of times people who admittedly say they're no longer Christians will say to me and my content, I wish I would have met you 6 years ago. Or uh I would love to come to your church. You seem cool as hell, Pastor Mike. And it's not because of me and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's because we're just real and vulnerable.
yeah.
And more churches need to be like that. Like Pastor Bob, if you're having a crappy Tuesday, say you had a crappy Tuesday in your sermon.
Be authentic. Share it. People want to have that human connection, and also when you can tie it to your own feelings and your own experiences, instead of getting up there and reading something and saying, "I read an article the other day about so and so did so and such and such." No one's listening to that, and no one cares.
Yeah.
It doesn't touch people's heart. It's just filling words in the air for an hour.
Or the Greek word here. The Greek word here means to go to a meeting. Yeah, that's going to help me on Tuesday when my son is in the hospital bed. I'm so glad Pastor Gary taught me about the Greek word to go meet.
Yeah, and it's okay in the sermon they say that, but if the sermon's all about that, not so much.
Well,
So
a lot of pastors are about puffing their egos up, and
so don't be an academic. Don't be an academic up there trying to read things about article. Be a human being.
Yeah, be a human being and just give the word.
You can teach and be smart, but you also need to be a human being.
Yeah.
Otherwise, true people that have issues aren't going to want to stay at your church.
You have to preach the God. You have to preach scripture and show real life application.
Yeah.
Life application. So, baby, we're at 1 hour and 27 minutes. I would say that is a great episode of the Living for Jesus.
I think we got our point across. But I
so,
think it's we could obviously talk for days and days on this subject because we're so passionate about it, and we just want to help people combat that and really find their. If you really try, you can find your tribe, but it takes work and it definitely takes perseverance. And God knows you're going to want to quit 100 times, but it's
and if you're in a good church, this ain't about you. This ain't against you. Hopefully we would help you put skin.
There are good churches out there, and there are churches out there that were once dying churches that are trying to revive and doing everything they can to really show love. So there's a lot of, I think people, especially in our generation, and not to knock the older generation because the older generation is realizing the times and like what's needed, and there are a lot of churches that are making changes for that. But it's the churches that say we've always done it this way, and this is the way we're going to be because this is who we are. That they're going to eventually sell their building to a movie theater or something.
Yeah. Well, and I hope that we put skin on this issue. You're hearing a pastor and his wife talk about it. They both went through doubt. They both wrestle with it. And maybe if someone in your church is hurting, you'll pump your brakes and not hit them with the buzzwords. Maybe
don't ask someone that is dying inside if they're okay. They're not, but in the culture they're going to tell you they are. And also don't say if you need anything, ask. Say, you know what, in hospitality teams, I think the ones that I've served with are good at this. Hey, so and such husband's just died, or hey, Susie just had a baby, or hey, they just lost their job, or whatever the life event is. Meal trains are cool, but really like asking people if they can come over to their house. Hey, when are you going to be home? I want to bring you something. Hey, I've got something for you. Let me know when you're home so I can bring it over. And people might be embarrassed. Maybe they haven't cleaned their house because they're just exhausted. And you know what? One-on-one, ask a lady to another lady, or whatever, a man to another man.
Hospitality and breaking bread goes a long ways.
Hey, you know what? I feel really called by God to say, do you need any help cleaning your house? Do you need any help with laundry? Do you need any help with life things? Because when life gets hard, it's those things that fall apart. And, showing someone that you care so much, to be able, no judgment, to actually tell them and suggest things that you can do for them when life falls apart, is really, really going to help someone. And it's going to go a long way for their soul, because it's when life is crazy and really, really down. I mean, I hope a lot of people know that when they face something, it's the people that come up and lift you up in prayer, but also the people that help you out where you need it. And I'm not talking about giving them $100. I'm talking about going over and mowing the lawn for a guy that's going through something. Go ahead. Hey, when's your trash night? I'll help you come get your trash. I'll help come clean your house. I'll bring a girlfriend over. We'll get your house all spiffed up for you, because the inside of your house can definitely deter your mental health. Like,
it's those kind of
things. Like, we can serve one another as a congregation and as a community that loves people. And especially for like introverts like me, like the people that are introverted, if the church were to be like, hey, we're trying to do a drive for such and such, or we have some families that are in need, so that you keep privacy intact. We have some families that are in need, and some people that are willing to like go over and help clean a house or mow the lawn or whatever. Reach out to the church office for more information. You're going to have people like me who are introverts that would absolutely want to sign up to help out with like that.
Yeah. So
get the introverts to serve.
Yeah. So in closing, guys, I just want to say, if you believe in what we're doing here at Limping for Jesus, go to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, get notifications on when we put out new content. This has been our first segment that we're calling Life with Pastor Mike and Sarah. And every time Sarah comes on the show, that's what we're going to do. We're calling these segments Life with Pastor Mike and Sarah. It's going to be her and I talking about a different topic. So
yeah, as we're doing life together, and as I just want to show everyone, like, you pastors like have real lives, and we deal with real stuff, and we're not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to be really real and just talk about it. And hopefully, as we get feedback and things from people, we can incorporate that.
So I want to thank my wife for being on, and we're going to say limp on, limp well, and limp loved. God bless, guys, and have a great rest of your week.
Night.
Thank you. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.